Hey, it's comedian Leon the Jokester here today for another class. Free class, may I add. You know the economy is bad, man. Why am I doing free classes? Because I care about your comedy career. So here we go. Let's go timing today. Let's talk about timing, okay? So in this brief video, we're just going to get straight to it. I'm going to call it the PG. The PG. So you don't ever forget it. PG stands for, the P stands for pauses, and the G stands for gaps. When I first started doing stand-up comedy, all of my words merged together. There were no pauses and there was no gaps, and that's why my set, the first 2 or 3 years of comedy, was horrible. Horrible. Because no one told me. You know, even when you're looking at comedy live or just on TV or on your phone or whatever, you don't really pay attention to the pauses and the gaps. It's the PG. All right. This morning when I woke up, that came to mind. I said, pauses and gaps. I need to tell up and coming comedians and experienced seasoned comedians about the PG. So let's start with the pauses. So basically, when you say something on stage, you have to have a pause in between so then people have a chance to laugh, right? So what happens is you'll say one thing and then you have the pause for everyone to laugh, and then it switches over where you can continue. You don't want all your words to merge together, because what happens is on stage, hopefully you're not too nervous, but if you're not relaxed, you would just be like, blah, 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 woo, 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 blah, 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 blah. And before you know it, you just stumbled over all the words. Now when people in the crowd laugh, if they do laugh, because they have to hear the joke clearly to be able to laugh, if they start laughing, then guess what? You're just blah, blah, blah. You don't even hear them laughing. You're just blah, 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 blah. You have to pause. Let them laugh and then move on to the next thing. This isn't something you learn overnight. I learned, it took about 3-4 years, trial and error. Trial and error. I've been doing comedy going on 7 years later this summer. And so I realized, wow, man, the first 3 years of my comedy career, I was talking over my laughs. I was talking over people's voice. I was not paying attention. I wasn't present. You have to be present, meaning that if someone coughs, you need to acknowledge that. If someone gets up and walks to the bathroom in the middle of your joke, you need to acknowledge that. If someone yells at you while you're on stage, you need to acknowledge that. You have to be present. You can't just be like, okay, I got these 3 funny jokes and I think people are going to like them. It's not going to work out. It's not going to work. If comedy was easy, everybody would do it. You will never in life meet someone that doesn't say, I think I'm funny. I'm funny around my friends. That's all irrelevant when it comes to true professional stand-up comedy. Why? Because I'm going in front of a group of people, strangers, that have no obligation to laugh. That's what makes stand-up comedy so hard if you don't know what you're doing, because here you are, you're making your family laugh, common. You make people at work laugh, common. But when it's time for people to buy a ticket to come in and see you, and they're strangers, right? They're like, hey, I'll pay $10 to see this new comic. Let me see what he has. Let me see what she could do. And now you got to bring it, or else you're going to bomb. And everyone knows in comedy, bombing is a terrible thing. It's terrible. Worst feeling in the world, because everyone is silent. They're supposed to be laughing. So that's the pause. That's the pauses. Make sure you have pauses. Now, last thing before I go, because I don't want this video to be too long and then you forget. So we got the pauses. The G is the gaps. Put some gaps in between your comedy. So when you go and sit down and write a joke, you know, say A, B, C, right? Don't just say A, B, C. Say A, B, C. That's how it's supposed to be. That's good pausing. And it's also showing that gap, so then you, again, have room for people to laugh. I'm comedian Leon the Jokester. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of free stand-up comedy tips.